Michael stopped waiting for the moment when overwhelm would finally lift. Not because he had lost hope, not because he was resigned himself to anything, but because he noticed something quietly profound. Life wasn't asking him to arrive somewhere else, it was asking him to stay. Stay with his pace, stay with his limits, stay with his care, stay with himself. For a long time, Michael had been orienting his life toward a future condition. The day things would finally feel lighter, the moment clarity would arrive, the season when he would finally feel settled enough to trust himself again. And without realizing it, that waiting had kept him slightly absent from his own life. Always preparing, always managing, always bracing. Overwhelm had felt like an interruption to living. But now something had shifted. He saw that overwhelm wasn't a detour, it was context. A condition of being awake in a world that is unfinished, noisy, uncertain, and asking a great deal of sensitive nervous systems. Once he stopped treating it as something that needed to be resolved before he could begin living, a different relationship emerged. Michael noticed that what had changed wasn't the world, it was how he met it. He no longer rushed himself internally to keep up. He no longer took in everything to prove he cared. He no longer mistook urgency for importance or shrinking for gentleness. Instead, he carried a series of quiet agreements with himself. Agreements to move at a pace he could stay with, to choose what entered his inner world, to care without carrying what wasn't his to hold, to remain gentle without disappearing, to continue even when hope felt distant. None of these were techniques, they were relational stances, ways of being with his own experience that didn't require effort, only honesty. Michael realized that the steadiness he had been searching for was never going to arrive as a feeling. It was something he practiced by how he showed up to ordinary moments, by how he answered a message, by how he listened without absorbing, by how he paused before reacting, by how he spoke when something mattered. Steadiness wasn't the absence of overwhelm, it was the presence of self-trust. Some mornings still felt heavy, some days still carried uncertainty, the world was still loud, divided, and unfinished, but Michael no longer met those realities by tightening or pulling away. He met them by orienting inward. Again and again, he returned to a single grounded question. How do I stay with myself here? Not how do I fix this, not how do I get past this, but how do I remain present without abandoning myself? That question became his compass. When he felt rushed, he slowed his inner pace. When he felt flooded, he chose fewer inputs. When he felt pulled to carry everything, he remembered his limits. When he felt tempted to shrink, he stood gently upright. Over time, these choices wove themselves into his days. Not perfectly, not consistently, but faithfully. Michael stopped measuring his progress by whether overwhelm was gone. He measured it by whether he was still in relationship with himself. And that changed everything. Because overwhelm no longer felt like a verdict. It felt like weather. Something to move through, something to adapt to, something that didn't define him. He trusted himself now, not because he felt strong, but because he knew how to stay. Stay present, stay gentle, stay honest. There was freedom in that. Freedom from waiting, freedom from self-judgment, freedom from the belief that life needed to feel resolved before it could be lived. Michael wasn't bracing anymore. He was inhabiting his life. And that, he realized, was enough. If you're listening and wondering what this all adds up to, let it be simple. You don't need to master anything to keep going. You don't need to eliminate overwhelm to trust yourself. You need a way of being that allows you to remain present without self-erasure. That's what Michael found. Not an answer, not a solution, a stance. A way of meeting life that quietly says, I'm here. I can stay. I know how to keep going. And if this arc has done its work, you may recognize something now. Not a dramatic shift, not a sudden clarity, but a subtle knowing in your body that you, too, know how to stay. This isn't the end of the path, it's the way forward. And we'll keep walking gently, honestly, together.